silver dollar.
Hey everybody, Game Freak 346 here, bringing you another episode of Let's Showcase. And in this episode, let's showcase One Finger Death Punch, an absolutely amazing game, especially for its extremely low price point that I can't wait to show off to you guys. However, as in the beginning of the last video, I have a special announcement to make. Well, not really special, but you get the point. Now, before we start off this video formally, I'd just like to apologize for not having a video in this series ready last month. Unfortunately, I was having some trouble recording, and when I finally sorted out those troubles, I realized, wait, I don't want to Let's Showcase this game anymore, and so I switched over to this game and started gathering footage for it. But yeah, anyway, I actually think that's all I have for the super special message at the beginning of this video. I think it's about time I get into this game. It's extremely fun and amazing, and I can't wait to show it to you guys. Let's do this thing. Now, before we start, I just want to say this game gets crazy. Want proof? Here's your proof.
Platinum medal awarded.
And that was your proof. Now, despite how crazy this game can get, it's actually a very simple title. Let's get into that, why don't we? The simplest part of this game is the controls. There are only two buttons you use. I usually use either the left and right arrow keys or mouse buttons. I believe you can also use the A and D keys on a keyboard, or if you're using a gamepad, you use the A and B keys on said gamepad. Now, you press these buttons to do only one thing: attack. You do this when that little bar at the bottom of the screen lights up, and depending on which one lights up, you press the respective button. If you press the wrong button, you miss and usually get hit because that leaves you open for an attack, and that's pretty much as in-depth as the controls and combat of this game goes. Actually, that last part is a bit of a lie. The combat and mechanics of this game goes a bit more in-depth than that, with the addition of two other things I want to talk about. First, we have colored enemies and brawlers, which I am including because they basically do the same things, as in being enemies that take more than one hit, rather than greys that always only take one hit no matter what. In the case of colored enemies, the amount of hits that they'll take will be displayed at the bottom of the screen, which I'll show you right now. That symbol right there will be a 1 for a gray enemy, signifying that they only take one hit. While with a colored enemy, it will be the number of hits they are going to take, as well as have some colored bars below it that represent which sides they're going to go on for you to hit them. So say if you come across an enemy with 1 blue bar and 2 red bars, that's going to be once that you have to click the... oh boy, that's going to be one time that you have to click the left mouse button, which is signified by blue bars, and twice that you need to hit the right mouse button, signified by red bars. This is really the only way that you should ever have to tell what type of enemy something is, as in the beginning of the game when you're only dealing with 1 or 2 different types of colored enemies, it's okay, but Once you get to the end of the game, specifically Grandmaster mode, you're gonna be dealing with, like, 10 or something different types of colored enemies. Yes, I had to emphasize how different they are by saying it twice in a row. Go me. In any case, yes, that is what colored enemies do. Brawlers are slightly different. They are also colored enemies. However, I'll show you it right now. They have a special symbol that's only for brawlers. And what happens when you fight these guys, you've been seeing it in the footage a bit already, but what happens when you attack these guys is you enter into a brawl. No other enemies can attack you during this brawl, and it will display the buttons that you need to press on screen above. Once they enter the combat zone, which is signified by that dotted line, you need to press that button in order to get the fight going or continuing. Pressing the wrong button will get you hit, but it won't count as a miss, so you don't need to worry about missing during these brawling sequences. Get to the end, and then they'll die, and you'll go on to business as usual with the rest of the enemies. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk about was the skills. This game has a plethora of different skills that can all be unlocked via playing the Levels mode, which I'll get into right after I finish talking about this, actually. So, the deal is, there are 21 different skills in this game. Some of them do very basic things, like, say, causing a few weapons to drop from the sky after a certain amount of kills, or turning all enemies into instant-kill gray enemies to make it easier. Some of them slow enemies down. One of them is a screen nuke and basically kills every single enemy on screen, and some of the ones that enter on screen right as it goes off. And truth be told, the amount of skills in this game is actually very high. How skills work, other than having their basic ability, which I've already given you some examples of, is basically they will appear on the bottom of the screen in the squares that I will show you right now. The number overlaying them shows the amount of kills you need to get before that skill will become active. After a certain amount of kills, that number will disappear, and when the circumstances that skill would be used come about, then that skill will instantly be used. Say, Deep Impact, the screen nuke skill. As soon as you hit the amount of kills needed to make that counter disappear, your very next attack is going to be a screen nuke. Or say the Brawl Master that I have to the far left that I always keep on. That one only activates after one kill, meaning basically you have it from the very beginning to the very end of the match already active. And it only activates if you get into a brawl. As soon as you enter a brawl with another brawler, as I've just stated, then it activates and the brawler is actually slowed down, which if you were wondering, yes, that is why there was a red ghosting trail behind that brawler that I showed off, as well as most of the other ones you've seen. That is the Brawl Master skill slowing them down and putting a red ghosting trail behind them as visual proof of this. Now, there are some skills that also affect other skills. There are some skills that outright don't work if you have certain other skills active. And the game does give some hints towards this, but you kinda just need to use your own common sense in order to, know this. I'm not gonna go too deep into what the skills actually do, other than those examples I gave you, but if you pick up the game, then you'll be able to figure it out. Ha! Finally, I figure out some way to get that in. As for everything else, it really only falls down to the variation in levels that this game has, which is actually quite large considering how cheap this game is. In fact, this game has a large wealth of content for its price point. I have easily spent over 30 plus, nearing 40 hours on this game, and still haven't completed it 100%, which is my obvious goal at this point. So, without further ado, now that we've gotten done with the mechanics of this game, let's go straight into the levels. Now, in order to start off on the levels, we of course need to go into, well, the levels mode. Now, this is a big the main chunk of this game, and my god, it is a huge, huge piece of gameplay right here. Not only do you have a huge world filled with tons of various different levels and tons of skills to find as well, just so you know, but you have 3 of it, each one more difficult than the other, with 3 different difficulty levels, starting off on Student, then once you've beaten that going on to Master, and then finally the ultimate difficulty, Grandmaster. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about the levels themselves. To start off, you have the main type of levels in the game, Mob Rounds. These types of rounds are basically just endurance matches, where you're thrown into the fray and put to the test against, towards the end of the game, especially in Grandmaster mode, multiple hundred enemies, huge hordes of the things. You usually have 10 life for them, although there are the occasional versions that give you about half of that, while sending you less enemies than usual. Secondly, and note that I'm not doing these in any particular order, you have light sword rounds and nunchaku rounds. Now the reason I'm putting these 2 together is because they basically play out the exact same way. However, for some reason I've always found that I've been a bit better at nunchaku rounds than light sword rounds. I'm thinking it may have to do with the color of the background, because in light sword rounds you have a glowing red background, and in nunchaku you have a glowing blue background, and in both of them you have some sort of explosion of that particular color, as well as you and all the enemies being the same color of dark black. Basically, the way these rounds play out is you're given a weapon which extends your range a bit automatically, and you're able to use this weapon throughout the entirety of the round. And it makes it so that all of the enemies only take 1 hit, except for the final brawler in the round, which takes quite a few hits, and you'll need to definitely be on your toes in order to beat them, especially if you only have 1 health left. Which, unless you are really good, I can guarantee there will be times where you are taking those guys on with only 1 health. Next up in the list are multi-rounds. In multi-rounds you have, well, multiple rounds, each of which act as a sort of mini mob round, where you're sent up against 10 to 20 different guys, sometimes more, sometimes less. You have a bit less health than you usually do, usually being around 4 to 5 instead of the 10, or in some cases even 20 health that you can have in regular levels. And every time you advance to the next round, it goes a bit faster. This is only the base speed and is also affected by the speed multiplier. Next up, you have dagger and bomb rounds. Now, for the same reasons as light sword and nunchaku, I'm including these 2 in the same category as they basically play out the exact same. In bomb rounds, you're throwing bombs at the enemies, which makes them all instant kills. And in dagger rounds, you're throwing daggers. Now, the special thing about these rounds, as well as 1 or 2 other rounds in this game, is that in them you only have 1 health, which means if you take even a single hit, you are not getting out of there, you're restarting the level, or you're forcing yourself to go back to the map because you don't want to fail miserably. That said, they can get really challenging and really frustrating, especially endgame. Even in student mode, I was having a lot of trouble with that final dagger round. Although for some reason I had a much easier time on the final one in Master and Grandmaster mode, so I guess it could have been just a skill thing at the time. Okay, only 3 more left. Next up we have Defender rounds. The reason I didn't include these with bomb and dagger rounds is that they play slightly differently. Instead of actually attacking enemies, the enemies are trying to attack you and you're defending against their attacks with a weapon of your own. You don't have infinite range in these rounds, so it is still possible to miss. and you still have 1 health as well, so for the same reasons as Bomb and Dagger rounds, they can also get pretty challenging endgame-wise. Next up, you have Smash Rounds. In Smash Rounds, which is what I showed you as the example of craziness at the beginning of this video, you are sent up against an infinite horde of enemies as things are dropped down from the sky by chains. In the game's own words, they're only dropped down there for the sheer joy of destruction. And so in these rounds, you're basically just killing the enemies until enough of them smash into the objects to break the amount of objects indicated by the blue numbers at the top of the screen. They can still get pretty hectic, but in my opinion, they're some of the more fun levels in the game. Okay, nearly there. Retro film rounds is the thing that I wanted to talk about next. Now, these things are pretty complicated compared to the other rounds. They changed the filter on a regular mob round, and for some reason this is a really effective way of actually ramping up the difficulty. You still have the various different brawlers in these rounds, so unfortunately you have to deal with them without the color coding of the different buttons. You have to look on the symbols of the ovals. You also need to look at the bars below enemies' portraits in order to see what type of enemy they are, rather than looking at what color they are, although I don't know why you would focus on the color even if it wasn't a retro film round. You get the weird retro film staticky version of the music from most of the mini-game rounds like Smash rounds, and on top of all of that, for some reason, I don't know why, but for some reason, they're just a lot harder than regular rounds. I don't have really any explanation for this, but hey, good job guys, good job. Okay, next up we have Thunderstorm rounds. Now, just like with retro film rounds, they're basically just mob rounds with a new layer of gameplay added onto them. The thing about these ones is that, first off, you won't be fighting any brawlers at all during these rounds, which is nice. On top of that, instead of changing the filter, they add an effect to the screen where it's dark, all the enemies are the same color, so you need to focus on the bars at the bottom again. Only this time it's dark colors instead of light colors. And on top of that, you have the occasional flash of lightning that definitely blinds me for a bit at some points, and can definitely throw people off when it comes around. So, these are gonna be definitely some of the more challenging rounds. Fortunately, there's really only one mandatory Thunderstorm round per campaign difficulty level. Second to last on the list, guys, we have Speed Rounds. Speed Rounds are basically smaller mob rounds where you're usually going to be fighting around, I'd say, on average 90 or so. I don't really keep track of the numbers, but that's usually what I remember fighting. And it's usually going to be around a 50 to 55 second time limit. If you run out of time, you're just frozen and the next guy that hits you kills you. And if you don't run out of time and beat the level, then yay, go you! You just speed ran a level. Do it again. Goodbye. And last, but definitely not least, we have boss rounds. In these boss rounds, you're going to be fighting usually only one, and in some special cases, 2 enemies. However, the special thing about these enemies is that they're not brawlers, but rather, they simply are able to switch their fighting style in between the various different colors of enemies. So, by the end of it, you'll be seeing that same enemy in that boss round switch between blue, green, different variations of that. I mean, basically all the different colors of enemies other than gray, obviously. And, truthfully, I feel like this was actually a really interesting way of doing the bosses. Originally, when I saw the boss rounds, I was just expecting what you get at the end of a light sword or nunchaku round, with a really tough brawler or something that just takes a lot of hits, even more than a Light Sword or Nunchaku Finale Brawler. But when they introduced this new specific class of enemy that can actually change fighting styles and take a lot more hits than you can, by the way, I felt that it was a much more creative way than what I thought. And it definitely worked out for the better, because the fights are actually very interesting, even though you're not fighting a lot of enemies on screen at the same time. Oh boy. Finally done. But yeah, guys, as I just said, we're finally done with all those explanations. Now, I'm sorry if it seems like I rushed through that bit a lot. In fact, I did a lot. But the truth is, we're already a really long time into this video, and if I had taken the time to, in-depth and precisely as possible, take the time to actually describe those rounds bit by bit, we would have been here an hour by now, because there are so many different types of levels and so much content in this game. I mean, it's absolutely crazy how much you get out of this game. I know that point keeps coming up, but it's true. It's absolutely crazy. And so, I did kind of need to rush through that part in order to get past all that explanation. But anyway, guys, we only have one game mode left, and that's Survival Mode. And in Survival Mode, I'm going to actually take the time to in-depth explain it, while giving you guys some footage of an actual run I did, so yay, enjoy! Now, before we begin Survival Mode, I just want to point out that, just like in Levels Mode, there are 3 different difficulties of Survival Mode. The first one is Regular Survival Mode, the one that you first unlock by playing through a good chunk of the Levels Mode. And that level just so happens to be where the free demo ends, so you can't unlock Survival Mode, just to let you know. Anyway, that said, Regular Survival Mode is basically just an endless mob round, so nothing different there. Then you have Blind Survival Mode, which is just like Regular Survival Mode, only that little range bar at the bottom of the screen that I mentioned earlier disappears. You don't have it. So, unless you know exactly what your range is at all times, just from memory somehow, you're basically going to be grasping at straws the entire round as to what your range is, which is why it's a lot more difficult than Regular Survival Mode. And then finally you have No Luca No Survival Mode, which is not only an extra difficulty, but also a reference to one of Silver Dollar Games' other games called No Luca No, where basically it's like Regular Survival Mode, so you have the range bar back, luckily, but you're constantly having to push a cat who I can only assume is named Luca out of the way of the screen while you're doing it, so multitasking. It's the hardest of all the survival modes, and is definitely going to give people a bit of trouble when it comes to getting the kill achievement, which I'll get into during my actual explanation. All that said, let's get into the actual gameplay of Survival Mode. So when it comes to Survival Mode, there's one other thing that I need to mention. In all of these, you're going to be able to pick your skills just before you go into the match. I believe the maximum is 5, however I haven't been able to fully complete Grandmaster at the time of recording this little piece of dialogue here, so it could be a maximum of 6 skills, as at this current point I can only have 5. In fact, I only used 5 as seen in the footage a bit earlier. Anyway, other than that, that's the last thing I need to say, so now let's really get into the gameplay. Now that we're going into the actual gameplay of Survival Mode, I have to say that this is going to take quite a while. That said, let's get right into this thing. As stated earlier, it's basically just an endless mob round. The number at the top of the screen will go up instead of going down. which, for regular level mode mob rounds, it just goes down because you have a set number. Yet in these rounds, it's continuously going up, as obviously there's no real set number. In fact, I think there are people that have managed to get over 10,000, so they obviously couldn't have a set number of guys that showed up in an endless round. That just wouldn't work. And so, that number goes up instead of going down. Also, the round will start off really slow, as if you were on the first level of student mode level mode. So, it's a really nice way to start off. It'll give you time to get used to the endless stream, see what you're being put up against, mainly get used to using the skills if you haven't already used them before. And plus, I just feel like it would be really bad if they started it off at its highest speed, because, oh boy, then it would be really hard to complete some of the achievements of survival mode, which I'll get into later. But, other than that, it actually gets a lot faster as time goes on. In fact, I mean, the speeds can get absolutely insane when it comes to these, like, multiple thousand guy kill streaks, or, well, not streaks technically, but you get the point. Point being the fact that it gets really fast and really insane, and it's a lot of fun. But that's not the only unique thing about this. Oh no, it's a separate game mode. It had to have a bit more than that. So let's get into the next thing that's unique about it: bonus rounds. Now, where to start with bonus rounds? Well, first off, let's say that they don't come extremely often. As they are called bonus rounds, they couldn't have them be one of the most, you know, frequent things in the match. And so, they made it so that you have to effectively charge up a bonus round. If you look on the bottom of the screen right now, in fact, I'll show you by zooming in real quick, you have a little green bar that's charging up there. That represents your progress towards the next bonus round. Once that bar is entirely filled up, which I'll show you right here, you get a light sword or nunchaku round. Yes, this is how they fit those two types of rounds into survival mode, using the bonus round system. If you look at the symbol next to the bar, you can actually see what type of bonus round it's going to be. A red one is going to be a light sword round, and a blue symbol is going to be a nunchaku round. Now, as for the rounds themselves, they're just like regular light sword and nunchaku rounds, except for one thing. In this one, you are given a secondary life bar, and unlike regular level mode light sword and nunchaku rounds, you can only take 4 hits. So you also won't be going for quite as long as regular level mode nunchaku and light sword rounds, you know, unless you're really good at this game, which, truthfully, there have been some times I've been able to do that, but, definitely not, it's definitely a rare occurrence that I'm able to do that, especially with light sword rounds, as I already mentioned. But, anyway, there's actually one more thing that I need to mention about them, and that's that you can actually use them to heal up. Other than the secondary life bar, during outside of bonus rounds, you still have to deal with the regular 10-unit life bar that you have in a large majority of regular level mode rounds. That said, it's only set. The only possible ways you can heal up are by using the heal skill that you can unlock during level mode, just like all the other skills, or you can decide to go for a bonus round, because during bonus rounds, if you do not have full health, occasionally until you do have full health, you'll get white enemies that really don't fit in with regular level mode nunchaku and light sword rounds art style wise. However, if you kill them, which, unless they hit you and deactivate the light sword round, you're pretty much guaranteed to, as soon as you see them on screen, but, pretty much is not totally a guarantee. And if you kill them, they heal 1 unit of your regular 10-unit life bar. They do not, however, heal up a unit of the secondary 4-unit life bar that you have during these bonus rounds, so they won't be able to extend the time you'll be spending there in order to get more health. They can be a really effective way of healing. In fact, there have been many times where I've been able to heal up from 1 to, like, around 6 to 7 health in a single bonus round. Because if you're not at full health, it'll actually speed up the bonus round a lot slower than it would if you started at full health. And it'll get increasingly faster, as well as the acceleration getting much faster once you do have full health, because at that point, you don't really need to stay there any longer in order to heal, so they try to get you out of there as fast as they possibly can, and back into the regular fray. Other than that, that's really all I have to say about the bonus rounds. They're a really unique mechanic, and I expected no less from this game. Truly didn't. But anyway, let's go on to one last thing about survival rounds that I should probably talk about. So, what else could I exactly have to talk about? I've already explained how the actual round works. I've already explained bonus rounds and their various mechanics. I've already explained how you can use skills that you can unlock during the level mode. So, what else is there? Well, I mean, there's the fact that missing really doesn't have as big of an effect here since you aren't given a medal for these, so I guess that's something to take into mind, but other than that, there's really only one more thing I want to talk about. And this actually doesn't only apply exclusively to the survival mode. It applies to the entire game essentially, but I couldn't figure out any better place to talk about it than this. And that's the achievements in this game. Now, I know what some of you are probably thinking. Achievements, wow. Let me guess, you do one thing that's required of you to do in order to beat the game, and they decide to give you an achievement for it. Because they didn't expect you to be smart enough to get to that point. Well, yeah, there are some achievements like that, like, say, beat the tutorial. Almost done learning things. Beat one of the final tutorial levels. These guys are called brawlers. Beat the first level with brawlers in them and be introduced to their mechanics. And various things like that. However, this game also has a large plethora of very challenging achievements that actually take a lot of skill to get up to. You have the 200 kill streak achievement that requires you to get 200 kills either in a level mode level or in a game of survival mode without taking a hit or missing even once, which is actually a lot harder than it seems considering how crazy this game can get at times, especially if you're on higher difficulties or farther into the survival mode. You also have things like the Impossible Combo achievement, which requires you to get the Impossible Combo, which is an extremely long combo that requires you to basically not stop constantly hitting things and not missing or getting hit for a large amount of time. In fact, most levels, it is impossible to get an impossible combo. It's only possible to get it in a very small selection of extremely challenging late-game levels during each mode, as well as possible to get it during the faster sections of a survival round, so it's not at all an easy task to get that thing. Of course, the only reason I got it so early in my playtime was because it actually counts achievements from the demo, even though the demo doesn't technically have achievements. And I 100%ed the demo, got Platinum Perfect ranks on every single level that I could possibly get Platinum Perfect on in the demo of this game. That's how much I loved it. And in doing so, I actually did manage to get an impossible combo, I believe on a boss level, and so I immediately got that achievement once I started up the game because I had already gotten it during the demo. But if I hadn't done that, it would have taken a really long time to actually get up to that, because I had a really tough time actually getting that impossible combo in the demo. So, it's definitely hard to get that achievement, but some of the hardest achievements in the game would have to be the ones that I'm going to mention right here. You have Grandmaster. Beat level mode on Grandmaster difficulty. This requires you to beat Student and Master and Grandmaster mode. All of that level mode content that I showed you has to be beaten in order to get that achievement. Of course, you don't have to get good ranks on the level, however, being a perfectionist, I obviously forced myself to, and my god, if you are going for gold or platinum medals on those Grandmaster levels, good luck to you, man, because you're gonna be fighting mob rounds with 500 guys and only 10 health, or thunderstorm rounds with like 300 guys, which is extremely challenging. So, it was fun. Frustrating, but fun. And finally, you have the survival mode kill achievements. Now, they may not seem very hard. 500, okay, you do that in a regular Grandmaster level. I mean, it's Grandmaster, but still, it's just a regular level. So, okay, I've done that before, just do it again, only now I don't have to worry about getting that medal I wanted so much. Doesn't sound hard, right? Well, that's what you require to do in order to unlock the next. In order to unlock Blind Survival, you need to get 500 or more kills in regular survival. In order to unlock No Luca No, you get at least 500 in Blind Survival mode. However, the achievements start getting really hard in these modes, because guess what the highest amount of kills for the hardest survival mode, regular survival mode achievement is? 7,000. On 10 health, occasionally the secondary health bar during bonus rounds, and only 5, possibly 6 skills, you have to defeat 500 enemies, continuously getting faster, and barely giving you any chances to heal. Yeah. Plus, you have 6,000 in Blind Survival, which is not... It's a lot less, however, you're doing it basically blind. You know, as the name says. You don't know what your range is, so you're gonna be missing a lot more. And so getting even up to 1,000 is a really hard task. And in No Luca No, the hardest survival mode, the highest amount of kills you're gonna need is 5 grand. So, yeah, good luck getting those. I mean, really, it's gonna take a lot of practice. According to the developer, in one of the videos that you get at the end of Master Mode, as you get a new video at the end of Student, Master, and Grandmaster Mode, he says that the highest kill amount that he had seen at that point was a bit more than 4,000. And that was better than his personal best, even though he had had a chance to play it all throughout the multiple years of development. And now there are guys that have been able to unlock the 7,000 or more achievement, as well as I stated earlier, possibly get beyond 10,000. So it's definitely not an easy task to get all the achievements in this game. On top of all of that, it also has a large variety of achievements, just amount-wise. You have a 250 kill streak even, I just checked. You have a total of 152 achievements to unlock, which is an amazing amount for such a cheap game. And you also have mastery point achievements that are going up beyond 10 million, which is quite a lot, especially in this game, where you don't really get mastery points very fast. The most I've ever gotten in a single round of survival, I think was, I don't know, maybe a few thousand at the most. I didn't really keep track, but it wasn't a lot compared to like 10 million, so it's definitely going to take a lot of time to get all the achievements, and I feel like they actually did a lot better with the achievements than a lot of games nowadays, as a large majority of them actually do require you to have some pretty good skills in this game in order to successfully unlock them, especially when it comes to survival mode achievements, which is understandable considering survival mode, at least in the later stages, is supposed to be the hardest mode in the game, I'm assuming, just because of the fact that it's kinda hard to get harder than infinite. Now, I think that's going to have to do it for this episode because, my god, I've been rambling on forever at this point, and truthfully, I want to get you guys out of here before I hold you here for another 24 hours, just rambling on about how much I love this game. So, that said, I just have one final message, just like at the end of Let's Showcase Hearthstone. I'm going to be showing you guys the thumbnail, as well as the end credits slate and the custom avatar that I've made for it, so you'll have that to look at, as well as the continuing survival mode footage in the background, as well as the awesome F77 music to listen to. Seriously, the guys that Silver Dollar Games got to work on this game's soundtrack, well, they didn't really work on the soundtrack, they worked on the album and then they took songs from the soundtrack, but they made a really good choice when they chose that Chinese Dance Machine album because, my god, it's such fitting music and I love it so much. But anyway, I really hope that for the few of you here that I know willingly thought this game was, you know, just a stupid one-hit wonder thing, I really hope that this video showing you what this game really is has at least got you considering changing your mind. I know it can be hard to believe that when it comes to this game, as well as many other games, as, let's just face it, when these kinds of games come up, I see a lot of popular YouTubers who have a majority of their audience being young 6 to 7-year-olds making videos about them and being ridiculous, you know, their ridiculous selves, and I know it can make the game seem childish when you have them acting like that, but truthfully, first off, it's how they do it, so nah, but secondly, I really hope that this is, you know, quote-unquote, shown you the light as to what this game truly is. It's only $5 on Steam, so try out the free demo, and if you like it as much as I did, you know, go pick it up. I can almost guarantee that it's going to be some of the best $5 you ever spend. It has over 250 different levels in those 3 different modes of level mode. It has 21 total skills to unlock that you can unlock in the level mode. It has the 3 modes of survival that I've already told you about that can definitely take up quite a lot of time, especially if you like doing good on the levels, as well as in survival mode. And overall, considering the price point, I just want to reiterate one last time that it's amazing the amount of work and the amount of content that Silver Dollar Games put into this. I know, once again, that they're not exactly known for making high-quality content, but this is definitely an exception. It's one of the best indie games that I've ever played, and I have never regretted, even for a moment, the day that I decided to purchase this game on Steam, because, my god, I've already unlocked, like, oh gosh, I can't even remember, I'm having to check. I've unlocked 106 of the 152 possible achievements. Actually, I think it's nearing 107, because I'm getting really close to 8 million mastery points. And I just can't stress enough how much I recommend this game to all of you, so go try out the free demo. I'll leave a link to it in the description if I can find where I downloaded the free demo version. And if you like it, go buy this game for the sake of just buying this game, because it is awesome. I can almost guarantee you won't regret it. That said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of Let's Showcase. Make sure to leave in the comments below whether or not you liked this video, as any feedback really helps a lot. And make sure to leave a comment saying whether or not you would actually enjoy if I played this game. I would really only be uploading my best runs in survival mode, as well as maybe a few highlight compilations of some of my best times in Grandmaster survival mode, as truthfully, I have just gotten to the point where I can't play this game unless I'm on the highest difficulty. Not because the game gets boring if it's too easy, but because it's just too much fun to not play on Grandmaster, because the fact that it gets so hectic is so fun at the same time. So anyway, yeah, leave those comments, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and make sure to check out the other episodes of Let's Showcase. I'll leave a link to Let's Showcase Hearthstone in the description below, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Peace!